Ring that bell, YPO, New York Stock Exchange. Brun Wall, market. Folks, what did I tell you all week? What did I tell you all week? Did I say it's going to be a quiet week, but hold your breath, put your seatbelts on Friday because Jerome Powell at his Jackson Hole, Wyoming annual speech was going to rock the markets one way or the other. Could have gone either way. I said it was going to be a big move. And I will tell you, it was up 1,000. Dow was up 1,000 points at one point. It's going to end around 850 points higher, almost 2% in one day. It's a monster, nice monster move. S&P up 1.5% in 96. Nasdaq up almost 400 points. Those are good numbers. Gold up, very strong, $35. And guess what? The best news of the day, you got a big up move in the markets. Typically, oil would follow that up saying, wow, things are good. Economic activity is good. They're going to need a lot more oil out there. Let's jack up the price. Only up 28 cents. That is some darn good news. Now, you ready for the really good news, especially around these parts? You ready? Boom, Bitcoin. 116 at one point, almost 118,000 at one point. Ethereum rocked it up almost 14%, folks. Ethereum, $4,828, a brand new high in Ethereum. And the boys in the control room, hey guys, you happy again? $3.08 to the XRP. The boys love it. You got to love that. All right. Let me tell you something. The big news of the day, I woke up this morning, I'm watching Fox, I'm watching Rev, I'm watching MSNBC, I'm watching CNN, and everyone's cameras were fixed on some house in the woods, somewhere in Maryland, I believe it was. And then as I come to realize, there's John Bolton's house. There is Ambassador John Bolton. I won't even call him ambassador because he's not an ambassador anymore, but John Bolton, former NSA to Trump, Ambassador Bolton. He and I have had a long history. Well, the house is being raided by the FBI. Now, people were thinking Bolton has had a history of saying nasty things about Trump since Trump fired him. I've had many, many words with him. We'll get to that in 1 second. But I believe there's something more to it. I think this is some sort of classified, how he handled classified documents is going to be at issue here. I think Kash Patel said, you know what? And this is great because they did the same thing to Trump, right? They were going to try and try and take all his money, throw him in jail over how he handled classified documents. Remember the raid in Mar-a-Lago? Remember when the FBI at the time set up a photo op? They took documents that were in a file and they dumped them on the floor and made it look like that's where they were. Well, the FBI did that and looked like Trump was carelessly handling classified documents, and they were spinning it to try and put Trump in jail. Well, guess what? Cash, Pam Bondi, President Trump said, you know what? Let's see how John Bolton, we hear he's been handling documents. Now, I'm only hearing this. I don't know this is the actual reason for these raids. Anyway, the FBI comes and raids John Bolton's home and also raids John Bolton's office. We have any VO of the office raid? I think the office was raided as well. They're going to see what he has, what he knows, and what he's been doing with it. Now, the reason why this is relevant, for some reason, John Bolton really pushed back against Trump everywhere he went. He pushed back against his meeting with Putin. He pushed back when he would meet with Xi Jinping, and this is the first term. And during the interim of Trump's first term and the second term, Bolton and I had some really nasty drag-out arguments on air. I'll show you one. Let's take a listen, just a few seconds of just one of many. Watch. Okay, so, Ambassador, under Biden, we have China threatening us. We have Russia threatening us. You have a $300,000 bounty on your head. How in the world could you think that we're safer now than we were under President Trump when he was willing to put missiles into Syrian air bases with Russians on the base? What's going on here, sir?
He didn't understand because he didn't understand fundamentally much of anything about international affairs. His decisions were not based on a coherent philosophy or a coherent policy.
But we were safer.
They were erratic.
Safer. He kept world
under
leaders,
Donald Trump.
He kept world leaders.
He
on
signed
their,
a deal with
heels,
the Taliban.
Sir. He kept them on their back feet. They didn't know where he was coming from, and that made us safer. I mean, can you? He had President
and
Xi
he cut a deal with the Taliban to withdraw from Afghanistan. Did that make us safer, Eric?
When he bombed, no,
you know what made us less safe? From Afghanistan make us safer, right?
You know what made us less safe is when Biden pulled us out of Afghanistan. 13 Americans died, and now
that was Trump's deal.
And now the Taliban tells us, back off, don't kill Al Qaeda.
That's right.
Are you out of your mind?
Well, that condescending laugh. There's at least 5 or 6 of those, and he would, anything Trump did was wrong. Anything he did was wrong. I suggested we stop funding Ukraine. At the time, Trump wanted to stop funding Ukraine. John Bolton always had a reason to fund Ukraine. Always had a reason to fund another war. The guy loved the war. I don't know if he was being backed by the U.S. military complex or what, defense contractors or what, but the guy always was defending more wars, and that just goes right against my grain. Anyway, John Bolton being I highly investigated right now. Couldn't happen to a nicer mustache. All right, let's bring in a chief White House correspondent for Real America's Voice. Get real, folks. Brian Glenn to talk about the FBI conducting that raid on the ex-National Security Advisor John Bolton's home. Brian, I know there's not a lot to add right now, but just if you have anything at all, just tell us you're right there. You're in the belly of the beast.
Well, Trump used to use this word of retribution, and I like to say accountability is what's happening right now. And I can only imagine the feeling that John Bolton had this morning when he was wearing his little tighty-whities, and all of a sudden he got a knock on the door by the FBI. Let's see what they find. Let's see what they were looking for. I think we're going to find out maybe tomorrow on the warrant. Maybe we'll get a public look at that warrant and maybe tells us a little bit more detail what they were looking for. But hey, well, let's see how this plays out. And I agree with you. I enjoy watching that little intro to this segment. I think that he was always against everything that President Trump stood for, and really what MAGA stands for. John Bolton, you're on the hot seat. Let's see what they find.
Let's see what you find. Also, a lot of other things going on in D.C. Namely, well, you were there and you had a couple of press conferences today. I think Trump came to the microphone a couple of times. Tell us about. I really am fascinated with this whole idea. Not so much FIFA, guys. I like the other one. I want to talk a little bit about D.C. They keep talking about this. In the week or so that Trump has federalized the police force there, there's not been one murder, and for some reason, this world thinks that's a great. It is a great thing, but can you imagine we're celebrating not one murder in a week? Where are we?
Yeah, when you can imagine that the Democrat Party is fighting all of this tooth and nail. Look, carjackings are down 83%, assaults are down 42%. We've had 0 murders in the last week or so. That has probably never happened in a long time. This is working, and President Trump even hinted about it yesterday, saying that perhaps this business model, if you will, could be applied in other states. He mentioned Memphis, he mentioned St. Louis, and then today, Eric, he mentioned Chicago and said, look, we're ready to go to Chicago. Chicago's a great city. He calls it one of the finest cities in America, like San Francisco.
This is very important.
Yeah.
This is very important. Yep. You're hitting on something extremely important because we were saying, is D.C. going to be a test case, a trial, a weather balloon, so to speak, for other Democrat cities that are ridden with crime? And the left is like, oh, look out, it's going to nationalize the federal police force into something that we're not going to want. However, these cities are crime-ridden. Chicago, my hometown, my original hometown, is unrecognizable from when I was growing up. It's a war zone. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, he warned the D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser and said, if you don't straighten this out, we're going to take over it, and you're going to be out of a job, basically. And I do anticipate that happening, to be honest with you, because it's working. The people support it. The only people who don't support it work for major news outlets that hate Trump. And I would say this, it's most Democrats. But he even called him out, Eric, today in the press conference. He said, many of you sitting up front here, and he was pointing to the press. He goes, secretly, you're glad I'm doing this. But behind the camera, you'll say, I can't believe he's doing this. It's so wrong, but I'm so glad he's doing it. They're very thankful because we have to walk the streets every day here in this great city, and we want to feel safe. I will say this, restaurant reservations, and I know this for a fact, are up in the last week. I called around to check. I even asked. I said, hey, have you experienced an uptick in reservations? Everyone that I called said, yes, we have. Now, I can only contribute that to the fact that people feel safe. People that are visiting here want to go out and see this city. So, Eric, I have nothing against.
So let me add this.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of other networks, right? I watch CNN, MSNBC, even Fox.
So do I.
And they will, this restaurant reservation thing that you bring up, and I agree with you. It has to be true. If you're a family, you're dad, you don't want to bring your kid into D.C. You'd love them to see the nation's capital, but it's been so crime-ridden. Now you can do it. You can bring them in, go see a movie, maybe walk around the National Mall, have a restaurant, get a reservation. I agree with you. On the left, they're using that as a talking point, saying they're down, and they must be up. And they must be up. Politico just had a report saying restaurant reservations were down. It's counterintuitive. It's against all logic.
It is.
And if they are, it's only because the criminals are leaving right now, and as soon as it's cleaned up enough, there's going to be influx from people around the country, around the world, to come to D.C. again. You used to want to bring your family to D.C. You can't do it recently.
No. And Eric, I spoke to a photographer, one of the legacy media outlets, Photographer Today. He said there are still parts of D.C. that you absolutely do not want to go. The police won't get out of their cars to respond to an incident until there's multiple cars on site. So we've got a long way to go, but if you just want to take this, maybe 2 mile perimeter, 3 mile perimeter around the Capitol, around Washington, D.C., that's getting cleaned up. But they have a long way to go because crime in this city and just overall drug use. There are some portions of the city, Eric, that look like zombies at night. So you go anywhere out.
I got to do this. I love you guys. We have a Real America's Voice has a brand new gorgeous studio. Brian, this is only like the first 18 hours or so that the studio's out. It's beautiful. But our guys keep doing this relationship shot. That one. They're doing a side shot, which is really cool. Right.
That one.
Yeah, they got to let you know that we're moving the camera. It's a nice pivot, and it's a great second shot. But let me tell you something. That is state-of-the-art studio right there.
No, this is wonderful.
And we're just having some fun here. This is how we do the bowling show at 4 o'clock. We talk about everything. We make I love how we were like, oh, look at the relationship shot. Brian's talking over there. That's very creative. We're being a little cute by an extra 0.5% or so. The final thought on anything over the weekend. I mean, every weekend something's happening.
It seems like every week we make history. This administration makes history. Seriously, every single week. It wasn't but like a week ago when he came to Alaska, then all of a sudden we had Zelensky in the Oval Office working on a peace deal. It seems like it wasn't a week ago when he said, we're going to have the National Guard here, I'll do it. Next thing you know, they show up. I don't know what's going to happen next week, but I know one thing, it'll be historic, because that's been the precedent so far of this Trump administration.
Love that shot. And also,
I'm over here now?
No, look over here. You know what's really cool, too, B? Jerome Powell in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, he relented. He indicated that they are willing to lower interest rates, which they should be doing, and absolutely I am on board. I don't love the idea of tariffs. I still will be true to that, but you bring interest rates down, brilliant. They should come down, not only for us, so prices of things come, not only for us, so that America doesn't have to pay $600, $700, $800 billion in interest to foreign governments who hold our debt. That really rocked the market in the up way and the good way today. Did Trump have a little extra pep in his step today? Because he loves it when markets are higher.
Oh, he likes it. Matter of fact, he made a couple comments start off the meeting saying the markets are on fire, but maybe I shouldn't say that because all of a sudden they'll go reverse course. He said that about 3 different times, how hot the markets were. He's a big fan of the markets. He watches it. He knows what he says affects the market. So, we'll see. One thing I was going to ask about tariffs real quickly. I know we're running out of time. I was going to ask the president if these tariffs are doing as good as they are, and when they continue to do that way, would you look into getting rid of federal income tax in placement of taking the revenue from the tariffs to offset that? I wanted to ask him that, but we ran out of time.
Great question. You know why? It's so good because right now right around only 50% of the country pays federal income tax. So the other half is living free off the hog, right, so to speak. And you're right. And that would be, a lot of people say take the money and distribute it. Sure, to veterans, great idea. Don't distribute it back to Americans. Sorry, folks. It needs to come out of people who are actually paying taxes, and that's how you do it. Great idea, Brian. If you do get that question, I'd love to hear what he has to say. Great job. Always good to have you on, friend. Brian Glenn.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Okay, folks. We will be back. 2.5 minutes.